I'll give you a little bit of background on me. I went to UNL. Well, first I was born in Lincoln. Grew up on a farm outside of Lincoln by York, Bradshaw, Nebraska for a little while, and then we moved out west and then I grew up, went to a country school in Lamar, Nebraska, which I will guarantee none of you guys have heard of, um, and uh, and lived about 5 miles from the Colorado border. So where I live today is back there. And a lot closer to DIA or Denver Airport than I am to Lincoln. As I like to say, I can stand in my driveway and and go to the right, and 4.5 hours I'm in Lincoln. If I go to my left, I'm 4.5 hours I'm in Vale, and for some reason I keep going to the right. Maybe not good planning on my part or whatever, but it's out there in western Nebraska, a town of about 2,000 people. I've uh, I'll give you a little bit of my background. I graduated in 1988 from UNL with an accounting degree, and started working in Kansas City right after that for Ernst. Well, back then it was Arthur Young. Then it became Ernst and Young. Um, I should probably spend some time on that. It was fun. Can working at an accounting firm be fun? Well, it was for me, because I was part of a group called the Entrepreneurial Services Group, and I worked with a bunch of crazy companies. I had Inc.'s fastest growing company one year. Worked a lot with O'Reilly Automotive when they were an itty bitty little company. I think they went public while I was there, and working for them when I was at Ernst and Young, and they had about a $300 million valuation when they went public. Today they have I just looked I think it's $68 billion valuation. And, done out of Springfield, Missouri, great family, the O'Reillys, and things like that. So I was able to do those types of things. Then I ended up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, from a reference from Dwayne Ackley, who has a building named after him, at Wesleyan, and he basically is the nicest gentleman you could ever meet. He's since passed away, but he's just a terrific human, and spent some time with me. I didn't want to be in public accounting anymore, and this is a pretty powerful guy, and called me. We got together, spent a bunch of time. I'm like, wow, I'm going to get hired. This is going to be a great career. He spent 2.5 hours with me, and to eventually tell me, no, I'm not going to hire you because this isn't really what you want to do or what you should be doing. And then eventually he referred me to a company in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was pretty upset about that. And here's a life lesson. Life lesson number one. I was really upset when I didn't get that job. And I was driving from Crete carriers out on Westo, back to then I was living in Lincoln for just a brief period of 9 months. And on the drive back, I went from being really frustrated with him to saying, wow, that's a powerful guy. He just spent 2.5 hours with a guy who's 26 years old, 27, I think at the time. And to tell him no, and help guide him some life direction. And so I sent him a thank you note and offered to work in marketing or anything else. Well, another attorney or an attorney in town then asked me, hey, I don't know how we got hooked up, but or asked him and said, do you know anybody who's young, energetic, worked with public companies and knows something about trucking? And I'd had an account in Kansas City that was trucking, and he goes, yeah, this guy just sent me a thank you note. So he referred me to Covenant Transport in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I had a newborn son who's now 30, but he was about 4 weeks old, and we went out and interviewed and looked at Chattanooga, Tennessee, and then moved there. And so I was able to take a company public as a CFO at 27. And as I like to say, they made a big deal about it. I was the youngest CFO on Wall Street. which was one thing, but I was probably also the most incompetent CFO on Wall Street at 27. So it was a lot of work and a lot of fun, but wow, it was hard. My wife decided that, hey, I don't want to raise our kids in the South. I'd rather raise them in the Midwest. So we moved back to Kansas City. Back on Covenant. I'm still on their board. So I wasn't affiliated with for about 5 years, and I just hit my 22nd year on the board, and which is a great experience, a lot of fun. So I still go back to Chattanooga about 4 times, 5 times a year. Spend a couple days there. Came back to Kansas City, got with a bunch of guys from Sprint, which then became Sprint Nextel, which is now T-Mobile. But anyway, we started a phone company in 1997, and it was a fun one. Grew like crazy. There were 5 of us, and 48 months later, there were, so 4 years later, we had 25 employees in 70 communities across the southeastern United States. Built it from 0 revenue to about 350 million in revenue a year, and that it was definitely part of the .com era, and we did a great job of selling. We did a great job of doing a lot of things, but our operations weren't terrific, and there was a flaw in the business model, which was we use the incumbent telcos gear, and that'll get me to Allo. And so I left that company because I disagreed with the path they were taking, and bought and sold a manufacturing company right around 9/11. And then I had a couple of non-competes, and so I moved to Western Nebraska. And my wife's family had a grocery store there, so we bought that, and Jill still runs it. Jill's a trustee on for Wesleyan. She has 4 stores, one in Imperial, Nebraska, one in Ray, Colorado, Holyoke, Colorado, and then down in the rail yard, the Canopy Street Market, which is about, if the streets were called this, it'd be about it on 6th and N. I don't know if anybody's been there or seen it, but so she's got a pretty large business, has about 150 employees, and does that. Well, I started Allo, as Dr. Bretz said, about 21 years ago. The original business plan still says at the top of it, never more than 50 employees. So I must have had a really bad day and not been happy with my coworkers or whatever and what I was doing then. But anyway, we started small, mainly throughout the 2000s. We started in 2003, and then in 2012, what we'd done is we built out in Western Nebraska, Scottsbluff, Gering, Alliance, Ogallala, North Platte, and with a specific view towards business fiber. And then in 2012, we added residential. So now we're starting to serve the whole communities. And then in 2015, Mike Dunlap, somebody said they had the service in Ashland. I met Mike Dunlap. Now, I didn't understand who Mike Dunlap was, and life lesson number 2, prepare for meetings. I didn't. I thought I was meeting someone in Ashland who had developed some lake places for some homes and needed internet access. And actually a competitor of ours introduced us. And so, I met with him, didn't prepare, thought he was a farmer. We had an NDA that we signed that was some weird name like Sandpit LLC. And went around Ashland, went around the lakes, and long story short, I created this, I had a little yellow tablet making notes, and he said, well, what will it take to bring internet here? And I said, Probably a couple $1 million, and we'll either make 200,000 a year or lose 200,000, but I'm not really interested in doing it because that's a hobby. And he said, well, what makes it not a hobby? I said, well, we got to get some more towns, and see Gretna. And I drove through Waverly. I really, I hadn't been focused on Eastern Nebraska at all. I was going to take Allo west to Colorado. And he said, well, and what about Lincoln? And I said, well, the state of Nebraska is our largest account. They love us. They want us to come to Lincoln, but it's $150 million just to get started. And okay, so we shook hands. I drive back across the state and thought, well, may not hear from those guys again. And the next, so that was on a Friday. On Monday morning, Mike calls me. He goes, hey, I got the $150 million. Well, okay. Another life lesson, number 3, is when somebody has the capital at that level, whatever they say next, you just say yes, because you're not really committing to anything. And he said, can you come to Lincoln and help us talk about fiber? And because I want to bring fiber to Lincoln. It's going to be you and me and a couple of people from the city, and let's talk this through. Can you be here tomorrow? Yes. Then I do use this thing that I kind of enable called Google, and I Google him and realize that, wow, his family owns Union Bank. They also own Nelnet. He's not a farmer, and he's really got the capital to do this. So we come in, and he tells me, just show up, bring some business cards. I'll do all the talking. I just want to make sure you keep me honest. Great. Well, signals got crossed. We walk in, we're expecting 2 people for a little meeting, and there's at least 20 people in the room from every department inside of the city. Well, Mike's an interesting guy. He's literally probably the most intelligent person I've ever met. But he doesn't like crowds, and he doesn't like public speaking. So he told me that he was going to do all the talking, all this. He did his version of all the talking was, this is Brad Moline. He's with Allo Communications, and he's going to tell you how he's going to build Lincoln, and turned it over to me. Well, I'm tap dancing. I don't have a PowerPoint. I don't have anything else. We talked it through, and that was in 2015. But by August to the end of the year, he not only did we get the deal with Lincoln, put it together, worked really hard on that. He decided rather than loaning me the money, he would just buy the controlling interest in the company. So he did that, and we launched Lincoln. Lincoln, it was a tough project. We only had 75 employees at that time, and all of a sudden we're going to scale, and we're going to do Lincoln and do it in a big way, and spend hundreds of millions of dollars. And so we scaled. We developed a brand. Well, we've always had a brand and always had a strong brand, but a new brand in Lincoln, joint with Nelnet, the student loan company. And that was hard work. We were hiring people like crazy. Almost anybody who could spell telecom or fiber, we hired, and built up the organization. As Dr. Bretz just said, one of the really great things today is, okay, we built that brand and that marketing, and that we go by 4 core values: honesty, hassle-free, exceptional, and local. We don't have a mission statement or anything else. I figure our team can remember 4 words, and it's guiding our values and our policies and how we operate. So it's a new company with fiber, and people joined. People joined at a crazy rate. Today, households, we have about 65, almost 70,000 households in Lincoln on our service. So that means we're serving about 180,000 of the population, maybe a little bit more. And we started with 0. and on the business side, we've got over half as well. Well, you when you go to speedtest.com, when you're having trouble with your internet, or you just want to see what your connection is doing, a third party actually registers that upload, download speed, all those types of things. And today, Dr. Bretz got it close, but Lincoln's actually the most connected city of the top 25 cities or top 100 cities in the country. That's better than Austin, Texas, Kansas City, Raleigh, Durham, New York City, et cetera, et cetera. Number one of the top largest 100 cities in the United States. It takes two things. One, takes a lot of market share, takes people accepting your service, takes an incredible company and an incredible level of communication of how to take care of customers. And so we enjoy that. And today, just to kind of get you caught up, we're in almost 50 communities. I'm in Arizona right now. That's been our latest. I wish I had that map, but that's all right. We're in a lot of the cities here, not in Phoenix here, but we go into the smaller cities. They're called tier 2s and tier 3s. Lincoln's a very large tier 2. And Imperial at 2,000 is a small tier 2, or Bridgeport, or those places. But basically, all the communities across the state of Nebraska, heavy into Colorado, and then also Arizona. We have an office as well in Kansas City. We just announced Joplin, Missouri. So we'll be doing some work in Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma as well. And that's who we are. We're 1,550 people across those locations. A lot, you'll see our trucks obviously all over town, but in each of these communities, taking care of the community and all that. People get real excited and they say, "Oh, wow, you're a technologist." No, we're a utility. We're like your sewer, your water, and those types of things, except for we provide broadband. Broadband wasn't considered a utility until about halfway through the COVID pandemic. Completely changed the world for in a negative way, in my opinion, but in a positive way. People realized they needed great connectivity, so you could learn from home, work from home, those types of things, and it's really pushed us forward. So that's what we do. We're a utility that connects people to wherever they need to go. We connect the businesses, the cities, the homes. Those of you who are gamers, we're also considered the top gaming ISP in the country. We've won that, I think, 2 out of the last maybe 5 or 6 years. So how do we communicate with 1,550 people across about 50 locations, plus a bunch of people working from home, plus a bunch of experts around the country? We don't do much work internationally or with employees, but that's about our style. It's very hard. It is the reason I'm in Phoenix right now is we did a management reset retreat here where we got the leadership together, and I've done these in various companies now for 30 years. The number one question all the time is, how can we communicate better? How can we be better for our associates, our teammates, across our communities, or with our customers? And people act like you can solve it. You never can. So this is a business communications class. You will be working at it no matter what role you have in business for the rest of your life, because how you present yourself to the person sitting next to you, or on a Teams call or a Zoom call, or however you communicate, will be a challenge forever. So we do several things. One is we have something called Gig News. We're a gigabit company, offer the bandwidth. It's a way to market to your team. We push it out on a weekly basis. Here's all the things going on, everything from new hires to new job openings to what's going on in various communities, health benefits, all that type of thing. And it gets read about probably 70 to 80% of our people actually read it. Well, why is that? Wouldn't, if you're doing, working for a company like that, wouldn't that be the first thing you read? Well, you have a lot of different types of people. Some of the people that work for us, particularly down in Arizona, down around San Luis and Yuma, Arizona, English isn't their first language. Reading things isn't how they consume information. Okay, so we have that. Others are working out in the field, don't sit on the computer all day, even though we make it into a mobile app. They don't consume it that way. So that's a challenge. And so then we also do some podcasts and other things to talk to our team. And then obviously in how we market, we do a lot of work on TV, our trucks, all those things. And our number one way of communicating with customers right now is a little different. It's neighbors telling neighbors that Allo's the way to go. It's social media. It's those types of things. When we started the business, it was ads in the newspapers and on TV. People didn't stream back then, radio, and we still do a little of that. So that's how we communicate. It is a challenge. I'll just say it over and over again. But keeping it fresh, keeping it interesting, and you say, well, it's someone's job. They should be listening to you. They should be reading about it. Yes, but how we consume our information and how we treat each other, we have a belief that we call it, it's called servant leadership, that you need to, my job's to be there for the team. And so if they want to consume it differently, it's my job to change how I communicate and do it in an honest way, sometimes in an entertaining way, and keeping it fresh. So in our organization, we have about 30 people in our human resources that do a variety of things from payroll and that. But one of them is an internal communications person. Oh, not one. I think that it's a group of three. They spend a ton of time doing that. And then on the advertising side, we've got about 80 people either creating print and doing that work, or our front offices, or various parts of the marketing world, which is largely digital anymore. Social media, Google AdWords, AI now, those types of things, and communicating with our customers. And so it is a challenge. During COVID, so COVID's an interesting time, and you want to talk about great leadership. So COVID, most businesses shut down. For us, it was the opposite. And we put our people in harm's way, not like the military in harm's way, but at the front end of that pandemic, nobody really knew how bad it was. There were people who were passing away, and it was a tough time, but we're a utility in communication, and our responsibility is 911, is keeping our communities connected. And so that was really hard. So we went from a real physical, close way of working together and with our customers, to our trucks would pull up based off of, Allo 248, that the license plate. Somebody would separately bring out all the gear, the routers, those types of things to install. They would walk back in the building. The individual would pick it up, gloved up, masked up, load it in their truck, go to the business, but mainly residents back then, knock on the door, keep distance, ask them to go into a separate room, get it installed, also that they could either work, learn, be entertained, or communicate with loved ones from home. That was hard. But then the next thing about COVID that was really hard, so you sent everybody home. Hey, the business can work remotely, is who has to, or who gets to, there's two different ways of looking at it, come back in the office and work. Well, that was a huge issue for society, a huge issue for every company, a little less of an issue for Allo. And the reason is most of our people are in construction, installation, repair. They're out there locating in case somebody's, call before you dig and all that kind of thing. Um, and so about 65 or 70% of our employees, one, really didn't change that much at COVID. Two, work out with society, and only about 30 or 35% are customer service reps on the phone, creative people, engineers, people doing design work, that kind of stuff. And so we did nothing at first. People can stay home. Well, we're growing like crazy, a lot of new employees and all that. We started to lose our culture, and our culture is the core of every business. And that's how you have to work to compete. So we win. Our largest competitors in Lincoln are Windstream and Spectrum or Charter. I guess Windstream goes by Kinetic there. And so, we're competing every day, but we're competing with Cox in Omaha and Comcast in mainly Colorado, Arizona. And so, we're in a competitive business and we're starting to lose our culture. And the reason is as humans, we love to be by other people. Why aren't you, why isn't this communications room empty and everybody doing it over a Zoom? So the reason is because social interaction is very important. And as you enter the workforce and experience life, you're going to be at work between 8 and 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. And those social interactions are so key, not just for how you do your job and how you take care of your customers and whatever you do, but also these people become your friends. Sometimes you have to debate, and it's much better to debate, as we say, in 3D rather than in 2D, like I'm communicating today, and develop how you work together. So what did we do about it? Well, one of the most important theories that we've developed is treat professionals as professionals. That doesn't mean that you're 20 or 21 years old, 22 years old, and you're not a professional. Sometimes our most professional people are our youngest people. Sometimes our least professional people are 55 to 65. Just depends. But if you can do your job, what we've gone to is all supervisors come in to the office, wherever office they are, there's 50 of them. And they support, because by the definition of a supervisor, people work with you. They support their teams from the office for really at least 3 to 5 days a week. They're back in the office. We were losing our culture of the new people coming in and not having that social interaction. Now, once you've been there for about 18 months, if your job allows, and you're a professional, then you get to choose. We want people in a day or two a week, in for key meetings and the like, but they can work from home. So that's the hybrid that we've come up with. It's worked wonderfully. Allison O'Neill, she's out of our Imperial office, but she has, I don't know, a few hundred people, probably 600 people at various levels reporting to her. And she's the one who came up with it. And there really wasn't a debate amongst the leadership. She said, my team is largely working from home. They've got to come in. We have to have social interaction. We have to have that energy and to do the great things that we do. And it's worked out well. But then at the same time, treated adults as adults, but we really like it. Professionals as professionals. If you need to be home on Friday, stay home on Friday. If you have events or whatever, work in and out of the office as you as you might see fit. That's been a great balance for us. I'm going to stop there. Any questions about that? You guys are in a business communications class. Any questions about where I've gone so far, or about how we communicate with our team, or Dr. Brentz?
We got a question over here on this side.
All right.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, so you started out in accounting. How do you think that helped you with transitioning to being a business owner? Do you think your accounting background was beneficial?
Absolutely. I was very fortunate in my career. I worked for a very large firm that trained very well. And then also I got put into a position where I was not just in an office doing people's taxes or whatever, and again, separated from my clients. I was out sitting across from them, talking to them, talking about their problems. Some of them didn't have capital, and I was working with banks to arrange capital and all that. So I was doing a lot of consulting work as well. I learned how to communicate with others, and in a very direct manner. I also knew the numbers, and that really helps in business if you know not only how to communicate, but what the numbers mean. So are you improving? Where are your challenges? Those types of things. So the accounting background was fabulous for me. Also taught me a skill, that everybody's got different skills. Some of our team are engineers, and what that means is they use GIS information from the other utilities, and they apply it through a machine learning process. Work with a company that's based in Australia to create the designs for our fiber routes and the like. Okay, they have to learn their processes there, but in the end, the accounting background has been terrific. It's also been terrific with our family businesses, like my wife's business. She's the leader. Has the talent, the motivation, does an incredible job with the customer service and taking care of her team and the communities where her grocery stores are. I probably have a little stronger sense on the numbers. So she creates the numbers and does them, as in, produces the revenue and the expenses. I can look at it real quickly and say, hey, this seems a little off or whatever. That's an interesting dynamic. You want to talk communication, is when you and your spouse own businesses together. That's also important, the relationships you have with others. But we have a good relationship, and kind of, yeah, I'm her accountant, but she does all the quality work and and leading her team. And it's also important to know where you are. It doesn't do anybody any good if I act like I'm running the business and she's actually running it. That confuses people. So I kind of know my swim lane, as they say. But accounting was terrific. Way to go. Other questions?
Anybody else have questions? Okay, we got one over here.
Yeah, so how have connections really helped you, one, develop Allo and then continue to develop it?
Connections. Wow. One, my entire career, that thank you note to the meaningful part of owning businesses and the like, that thank you note to Dwayne Ackley created a connection, a trust, wow, this guy thanked me for not hiring him. Okay, that's interesting. So then I'm in the trucking industry, and I talked about taking him public and stuff and those types of things. But he was also he led Creek Carriers at the time, and we would see each other at industry events, and he would always stop and talk to me, ask me how my family was doing, if Jill was with me, talk to her, always remembered her name. But that connection gave me credibility to be a leader in that industry. And then from those connections, I got referred to the people starting a new company in telecom deregulation during the dot-coms. Okay, and all these connections are based off of two things. The most important thing is honesty. I developed a reputation, I guard it very carefully, that I'm honest and upfront with people. Some people say, Brad, I like your candor. Now sometimes that's you're you're pretty you kind of beat people over the head with the facts. You're direct and those types of things, but you develop that, that's really your business card. Yeah, you've got your physical one, but your business card is all the people that you meet along the way. Dr. Bretz, we met through Nelnet, and those experiences do two things. One, they open a lot of doors. They can close them. But the other thing is they make it more fun to go through life. So connections are just vital, and protect them. Now, I'm not very good with names. I'm not very good. So, a key customer or somebody I know in Scotts Bluff, in my world, belongs in Scotts Bluff. So when we host a tailgate at the UNL football games, and that person from Scotts Bluff comes up, I have a heck of a time coming up with their names. But I recognize their face and I know what we did together, and it takes me a while. Now my wife's the opposite. She meets somebody in an airport one time 5 years ago. She still remembers their names and remembers what they were wearing, and it's a gift that I can't get to. But connections are vital. And last night at dinner, we're looking at another round of expansion. And one of the guys I worked with in accounting, who actually went to UNL at the same time I did, really haven't worked with him for, oh gosh, well, since 90. And so that's 35 years. He's talking about joining our company. And he said, well, he was a partner at a very large company, and has just recently retired at like 57. He goes, I'm really not done. And we're talking about doing a project, and it's actually going to be a very large and meaningful project. Well, why, we were talking, he goes, the best thing is we know each other and we know each other's value system. So we don't have to deal with that. That connection is huge. He, incredibly talented individual, and a lot of fun to be around, but that connection is the most valuable. And so as you go through life, and starting a business, those connections also, invariably, it's finance. You have to finance the business unless you're family or you're independently wealthy. And I wasn't and am not. But those connections with financial people and that honesty and that cultural value is just vital. Because if you've ever, bad term, it's not a 100%, 0% gain, but you build up this bucket of credibility and you want to keep that very full. If you lie, if you fail someone, if you don't do what you're supposed to, that bucket gets empty real fast, and it's really hard to be successful. The other thing is, not only individually but also as an organization. I just have an incredible team. Just people that really do the right thing and the right thing well. And so all these communities beg us to come to their community because they know what Lincoln got, or what Scottsbluff or North Platte or some of these other towns. And so those connections are vital. There's another question in the center of the room, if I saw that.
Who else has a question?
Yeah,
Drew.
just curious, is there something that you wish you knew prior to going into Allo?
Oh, a ton of things. A lot of people, I'm gonna talk about something that isn't really taught. Life happens. and you kind of trip over things, and sometimes those trips are positive and sometimes they're negative. Starting Allo, I started Allo when I was 35. Um, uh, I felt like I knew everything and owned the world. 35 is pretty young. Now that I look back on it, I don't know. As we get older, Dr. Bretz, you kind of you reflect on things and go, what was I thinking? But anyway, uh, there were a couple of things. One thing that I knew is from being with the accounting firm, and was that creating a business wasn't an impossible task. Another thing I knew is I knew how to talk to bankers and attract capital. What I didn't know is how Allo worked. By the way, I still don't. And do you understand that like your cell phone, you talk on it, it's joined through Wi-Fi. You may be doing Wi-Fi calling. It turns things into ones and zeros. It goes over this private connection and goes across the country or to Hawaii, like you guys were waking somebody up or whatever. And excuse me, it rings on the other end. And when they answer it, it sounds like your voice. I don't have a clue how that works. I literally don't. Our engineers kind of do, but there's technology that you just buy that makes that happen. I wish I was much more technical. That's one. I wish I was much better with names. That's two. But in getting it started, a lot of times people go, I wish I knew what the future was. I actually love the fact I don't know what the future is. And you get to act and react and have some fun with that, because that's another strength I think we have as a company, but I also have individually is, hey, there's a new input. It's COVID. It's a Zoom call. Zoom calls are really new in the last 10 years, or Teams calls. And okay, how can we take that technology, provide it to our customers, and have a success with it? How can we take care of our customers so that they're willing to pay us every month, and enable that? I wish I knew more about engineering. The other thing that I know very well is how to attract and hire good people, because in running a business, it isn't you. I'm the talking head, as I like to say. If you ever see us on one of the bars or restaurants, or you take TV at home, I'm the talking head you see on the commercials. But the rest of the team is who takes care of our, we're almost at 200,000 customers now across our footprint. That's really hard to do. And so knowing what you're good at and what you're not is important. And that's maybe the key to a successful business is you have to be humble. You have to, business will give you humility on a daily basis. And it's what you do with it. You can either suffer or say, hey, that's the challenge of the day. Attack it, destroy it, rinse and repeat.
I want to go back to one thing you said when you and Mike Dunlap went into that meeting with the city. You gave basically what communicators call an impromptu speech.
Yeah.
Is there any way that you can suggest that people can kind of help to prepare to do that type of thing? Because
Well,
you didn't outline it, you didn't plan it or whatever, but
no, I'm gonna go clear back. When I was 8 years old, my mom forced me to be in 4-H. I wasn't wanting to be in 4-H. My mom forced me. She also forced me, starting at 8 years old, to give a demonstration every year and a speech. So, most people think of 4-H as raising cattle and that kind of stuff. We didn't have cattle on our farm. And so I think I took like green beans or something, I had to do something to the fair or as my projects. But what she really cared about was that. The other thing is the way I put myself through school is I was a drummer in a rock band. And that was important in, you think about impromptu things.
Mhm.
So, and I was fortunate there. Why my parents ever let me do that, I started playing in bars when I was 15. There was only one of us old enough to drive, and we lived on the Colorado border, and back then Colorado's drinking age was 18. And so we started doing that, but impromptu speeches. One, because of my mom, and then I was also on extemporaneous speaking. Yeah, I played football and basketball and all that kind of stuff in high school. But my mom also was friends with the speech teacher and coach in high school. And so she forced me to kind of be in speech, and I did extemporaneous speaking. So I've always been comfortable on stage. I've always been comfortable in the one-on-one, and in that calmness, and maybe even the way I apply the pressure of the situation is kind of an energy that fight or flight. I enjoy it. I don't run from it. Um, Work at it, but I can quickly tell the story. I can think of the bullet points in my head or on the back of a napkin. It's always good to have something in front of you. Have 5 key topics, and that deal with Mike Dunlap, I knew very quickly, okay, these are utility people. These people run a city. They want to protect the city because that's their job, but they also have a problem that they want solved. Okay, form that. Who is Allo? Why is Allo worth talking about? How can I solve this problem? And then draw out of them what are the problems. There's my perceived problems, but get it interacting, being very interactive. I mean, real quickly you can do that. Quite often somebody will call, or an event will happen in the world, and particularly when I'm in Lincoln, all of a sudden there's a TV news crew that wants to talk about digital divide or digital currency or how we protect, and they don't give you heads up. Sometimes they just show up, and just being ready for that and being calm. And if you're not ready, take a breath.
Yeah.
Look down at your notes. You don't have to fill the time like I am today with a lot of words. Sometimes silence is a good thing. Get your mind right, be succinct, and push it out. I enjoy that. Well, Dr. Bretz got to hear me speak at a uh, Allo Communications won Rotary's. Matter of fact, I think you nominated us, but
Yeah.
Rotary's Business of the Year last year. I don't know if you knew this, but I thought this was just like a normal Rotary meeting I was going to speak at. I thought it was going to be 40 or 50 people. I was very honored to win it and all that. I scheduled a meeting in the Cornhusker on a Zoom call with a customer that we were having a problem with that literally went right up to the front of the start of the event.
And you walk into the room and there are hundreds.
Yeah, there's 600 people there, and banners, and like people expected something to be halfway well done. So I put down my 5 or 6 bullet points. Thought, what do these people want to hear? I interviewed really the people at my table, which were some dignitaries and some political people. They gave me a couple of points, and turned out one of the guys at my table I used to work for as a runner when I was in college, and a runner used to be a guy who worked at a law firm and basically went back and forth shuttling papers before the internet. You could just email him. And so we came up with a couple, I thought of a couple of stories there, and made it happen. But that was probably one of my biggest panics lately is, wow, all these people are here to hear me say something intelligent, something maybe witty, and I didn't prepare to this level. Now I'd done enough prep that we
Yeah.
got through it, but
That happened
that
to
was
John
hard.
Cook. We recognized him as the Nebraskan of the Year a few years ago. And I think he figured it would be 25 or 30 people, and he walked in, he got there late, and there were like 300 people in the room, and he was kind of blown away. Well, Brad, I
Yeah.
want to thank you very, very much. I deeply appreciate you got up at 6:30 in the morning talking to our students and some of the wisdom you've shared. I just really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to do it. Hey, I'm in sales. If you or your family aren't on Allo, get on Allo. Those of you who raised your hand, thank you. And as you're looking at careers, please consider Allo. We're a very young company. We have a lot of fun. It's not for everybody, and what we need, and maybe what you can provide at the time don't match up. But I thank you. I thank you for the questions. And I really apologize, next year or next semester when we do this, Dr. Bretz, I've got to be, it's much more fun to be in
Okay.
the
I'll
room.
invite you next year, next fall.
All right.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great spring.